Let the chaos reign. Chaos Reign presents How I Become Conscious with guest Mus Zoser. This is broadcast October the 11th, 2020. Enjoy.
The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where there's crime, corruption, murder, violence, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocity that plagues the world in which we live in today. What you're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos. And I take a more greater or extreme chaos to restore the order in which the world we live in today. Good evening, black people. This is Chaos here. Okay, Gary. Tonight I have a very much of an interesting guest with it. A very unique, not experience, but something that we could all relate to in this stream tonight. And I think we could learn a lot. But before we get into the meat of the matters, I would like for everybody to go to talkrealsolutions.com. On talkrealsolutions.com, you'll see not only the list of 3-point plan, Black empowerment, Black achievement, Black established banks, but in the website itself, it got the latest news articles and things that's going or is trending in the world today, even during this uncertain election that's coming up. All the information is given out in the website. So go to talkrealsolutions.com to find the latest news and rated articles, blogs, etc. on the website. Also on the website, there is a donation tab where you can donate to the show and to the many of the endeavors here on Talk Real Solutions. What else? Oh, yes. We also are streaming on Facebook. Go to Talk Real Solutions on Facebook. And we are also streaming on YouTube. You can find us on Talk Real Solutions on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to the one on the YouTube channel, my thing, like always, what I do, because now that everything's moved back the way it is on YouTube, you just hit the subscribe button and hit the top bell. You might have to redo this because, as you know, we were not putting up much content for a while. So, yeah, it'd be good if you go back to the and refresh, re-add back yourself, subscribe, and hit the top bell so you get the automatic notifications for Talk Real Solutions. Yeah, so as you know, everything's streaming now on both ends, so you will not miss a beat, not at all. One other thing, before we get started, let me read what I didn't get a chance to bring up. And this is an article, and I might just put this maybe in the description or in the comment sections of this particular broadcast. And this is from Fox News. I'm not sure when this was published. A month ago, but still relevant. Chinese virologist, China government intentionally released COVID-19. It says here, I work in Whom Reference Labs, which is top of the coronavirus lab in the world. And let's follow, and there's an audio video, which I am not going to play. I'm just going to read this. The Chinese government intentionally manufactured and released the COVID-19 virus, and that led to mass shutdowns and deaths across the world. A top virologist and whistleblower told Fox News host Tucker Carlson on Tuesday. And Carlson specifically asked Dr. Lingming Yan whether she believes the Chinese Communist Party released the virus on purpose. She said yes, of course. It is intentionally, she responded on Tucker Carlson tonight. Yan said more evidence would be released, but points to her own high-ranking position at the World Health Organization, referring labs as a reason to trust her allegations. I work in the WHO or WHO reference lab, which is the top coronavirus labs in the world, in the University of Hong Kong. And the thing is, I get deeply into such investigations in secret from the early beginnings of this outbreak. I had my intelligence because I also get my own unit network in China, involving in the hospitals, and I work with the top coronavirus, what they call virologists in the world, she said. Exclusive Chinese rulers accuse Beijing of coronavirus cover-up and flees Hong Kong. I know how they treat whistleblowers. Oh, yeah, you know what they treat whistleblowers. Always the result is actual death, as y'all know. They don't play in outside America in regards to other nations, in regards to whistleblowers, people that trying to, I guess, cause certain ruckus in their communities, their states, their countries. They put very much a cap on a lot of people if they are found in that way. Let me see. Where was I? Okay. So together with my experience, Ms. Lang speaking, I can tell you this is created in the lab. And also it is spread to the world to make such damage. Yan comments conflicting with the opinions of Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, and the White House coronavirus advisor who previously cast doubt on the idea that the virus was artificially created. In May, he told National Geographic, if you look at the evolution of the virus in bats and what's out there now is very, very strongly learned towards this virus. Could not have been artificially or deliberately manipulated. The way the mutation has naturally evolved, other scientists have handed the idea that coronavirus or COVID-19 serves as a sort of bioweapon or was released by the lab. Fox News previously reports of Yan back in July when she blew the whistle on China alleged attempts to suppress information about the handlings of the virus. With the vast network on contracts in Chinese medical facilities, Yan attempts to gather more information about the virus, and China blocks overseas experts from conducting research in the country. Her revelation fueled outgoing complaints that the Chinese government failed to tell the world early on about the virus threats. Specifically, she believes the Chinese government ignored research that could have saved lives. The State Department did not immediately respond to Fox News' requests for comment. In response, her former employee of the University of Hong Kong criticized her account. A press release notes that the content on the said news report does not accord with the key facts as we understand them. And let me go down. And as it concludes, specifically, Dr. Yan never conducted any research on human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus at the University of Hong Kong. During December 2019 and January 2020, her central assertions of the said interviews, Yan, who said she was one of the first scientists in the world to study the novel coronavirus, fled China and currently fears retaliation. She was alleged as by her supervisors at the University of WHO reference labs, Dr. Leo Poon, in 2019, to look up into the odd cluster of SARS-like cases coming out of mainland China at the end of December 2019. And that's just a little reading. And normally this came out roughly almost a month ago, I believe. It didn't really get much circulation. But, I don't deal with these type of situations that's happening out to America. But I would like to share that just for some little insight. But, like I said, people knew this came from Asia, so there's no secret to that. I mean, if you didn't know, now you know. Okay. But on to the subject at hand. Tonight's subject, T.R.S. presents How I Become Conscious. And this is a new guest, first time I Actually, it's the very first time that I was referenced a guest to come on to the Chaos Rain channel. So this will be a real good one. I'd like to introduce no other than Mus Zoser. I think that's how I pronounce the name. So if you're there, Mus Zoser, press star 61 so I can see you. Now open your line. You can press star 61 now, Zoser. Okay. Welcome for the first time on T.R.S. Talk Real Solutions, Mr. Zoser. I don't know if I pronounced his name right. Can you hear me there, bro?
It's you just go your bro, so it's fine.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you good. I hear you wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's the proper pronunciation. It was a name I was given, Mus Zoser on cat, but most people just call me Zo for short. So I just go by your bro, Zo, brother.
Oh, Zor is better, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, Zoser.
Zoser. Oh, Zoser.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, brother. First time as any here on TRS. Welcome. Before we go into your journey into consciousness, I'd like to take a step back on the moment in time before we jump forward into the present and into the potential future. So tell people for the first time on TRS a little bit about yourself. Zoser.
Yes, sir. Like I said, most people know me as Zoser, but everybody calls me Zo, so it kind of turned into your bro Zo. But I'm a musician. I've been playing music since the early '90s in different rock bands, different bands. Touring around, playing with some international big acts. I'm an author. I just put out a book called Bicultural Living and Leaving the World of Illusion. I'm into metaphysics and African spirituality. I just came back from Haiti studying, taking my first step into the initiation to Haitian voodoo. And I'm just doing my best to be the best person I can be and, touch others so they can be the best they can be. You know what I mean? That's, that's pretty much where I'm at this point in life.
Okay. Now, voodoo, what got you? Well, before we go into that, to really talk about what is your definition of consciousness?
It's there's definitely different levels of it, because it seems like when I first started to become quote unquote conscious, it was just like the very beginning of my journey of consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So it's just literally just, being aware and being aware of self, being aware of your environment around you, people around you, being around what the world and the state it's in, just truly looking at things through an untainted, unfiltered reality, view from your own personal reality.
Okay. Now, I am conscious. The book itself, is this more of a biblical, or I'm not sure, of an anthology of your life, or just something that at a point in your life you decide to say, this journey of consciousness is something that I want to present to the world on how I view it, that it helped me. Now, like the background story, because you are a musician, and now I could call you a voodoo priest in the arts of understanding the actual and real African science, that is being used by not only us, but other non-blacks, Caucasoids, and because they are studying voodoo. I want people to be clear about this. They are studying our art. You get me?
That's very true.
Not true? You don't think so?
Yes, it is true, 100%.
Okay, yeah. So, in regards to this journey from consciousness, how did you came to your own awakening? Because everybody at a certain age came to an awakening. What was it in regards to you that it started to come clear, or you hit that certain conscious awakening? At what age it started?
I would say my early 20s. I talk about this in the book, but like I was, I'm from, at the time I was in Richmond, Virginia, and I was working at this bank called First North American National Bank. And at that time, I already started kind of reading, different materials and kind of started like probing out outside of just the normal information, that most people just, kind of fed or presented, And I remember this time sitting in my cubicle, and I had a sister across from me named Kenya and another brother named Taki. And I didn't have much information because I was just studying, and, I was young. So I would just be talking to them about different situations because I remember I was talking to one sister, Kenya. I was like, Jews are the most persecuted people ever on the planet. And, she just like broke down like how long the slave trade was, how many people in Africa died. You know what I'm saying? She would just break down all the stuff I never knew. You know what I'm saying? I had no clue. So she was breaking it down. And then Taki on the other end, he was breaking it down to a whole new level. So, they were literally like playing ping pong with me, you know what I'm saying, with just, knowledge, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just sitting back like, wow, you know what I'm saying? So that was the first point when I sort of I already started questioning things, but I started getting answers, you know what I'm saying, and was pointing to a direction where I could get more information to validate, what these people were talking about. So it just put me on a journey right then. So that was just doing my own research and my on things that I just wanted to find out was true on every level. You know what I'm saying? So that was the beginning of my journey.
Oh, okay. It's interesting that you said in your early 20s. I think because I'm not sure you're a Gen Xer or millennial. What range you fall?
Gen X. Yeah.
All right. So I would take it you're like in the late 70s, right?
Mid.
Okay.
75.
Oh, wonderful. I think what I've experienced, because I think in my life, I think it almost hit me in a way around the 20s, maybe mid, maybe late, is around that range. But I've noticed that, and I don't want to brother, but I'll just tell a short story myself. It didn't really start to come clear to me until I was approaching close to my 30s.
Yeah.
You get me? Yeah. I knew it was around, but I never took it seriously, like any person, like anything through walk of life or journey itself. But it started to really set in, like I said, for most humans, like once you reach to your late 20s, that the brain develops a certain way, depending on what you are absorbing or what you're doing. In regards, like say you come through information and you try to learn more, especially certain information that resonate into you spiritually, then you start to go in a path to really look into more. One thing I think it resonated with me is when I came across a certain book dealing with black science to us, and that's when it really started to piece in a lot of holes. You get me?
Yeah,
I think definitely. For every person's journey, it has to be that not just you just awaken, it's certain information that hits you that just click, and you want to just find out more. And once you find out that information, and let's say you find a book or wherever you get it, it makes you go even further hard to see what other information out there that I never really looked into, and that the journey begins. And like I said, that's where most of us it starts to click. Not everybody gets through the same awakening on the average, and I can't say it's like the age information that got me. It's just it was the timing of everything. I'm new to these new terms, like that we're living in information age, so everybody operates a little different from what the information that's presented to them. Some people don't question it, but like I said, everybody awakens different in different scenarios in life. Some people get it when they're teenagers. Hell, some people get it in their 30s. To get it at the point where where life starts to be in the direction where you find yourself is usually around when you're in your 20s on average. So once you get to that stage, you're actually in a good spot as a human being.
I agree.
After a certain age, it's going to be hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But, nonetheless, it's good that you got this waking at this point in life at that time, One thing with being conscious as a self, do you view, let's say, other race of people a little differently now that you come to what we call consciousness? Like, do you look at certain groups of people, like non-black people from Asians, Europeans, etc., a little differently now that you try to understand not only what's your part in history, but what they really, not only that, but their place in history now?
I would say yes, but not in a negative light, because my whole thing is like, I'm the type of person, I don't group everybody in races. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If a person's a good person or a bad person, that's what they are. No matter what race they are. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But it's just that history obviously tell you that certain races, dealt with people differently. And so they had a different philosophy, a different mindset a lot of times. And that's obvious and apparent. You know what I mean? It's like I always think about, like, when I see people back, like, in slavery days and stuff like that. Post-slavery days, like in America, when you have these pictures of these white people just standing around people lynching a tree, they smiling and joking and laughing. I always be like, what type of mindset, would people have to be joking and laughing when they just burnt somebody and cut their, castrated them, and et cetera, And I kind of put that to, world history, just seeing how certain people, just continuously acted a certain way. You know what I mean? So you can't deny, the history of the way people reacted in the past, and how even today, so it would be, naive for me to say, certain people don't do certain things, certain races didn't do certain things negatively, or certain races didn't have a pattern of doing things negatively or positively on the same end. You see what I'm saying? So I get most of my action through my personal experience that I've dealt with people, and kind of like history kind of backs that up, and my experience back that up as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. With every person, everybody deals with what they call racism a little differently. But one thing with us as a people, we don't really take it, not only for a grain of salt, but take it as is that, in an environment that we're not really in control, per se, because of our numbers in this soil, that we have to operate a little different amongst other groups of people that have the potential that could potentially do harm if you're not careful. You could be one of the people that be in a wrong place, wrong time on the average. And, you try to survive the little encounter, depending on how severe it could be or lead up to be. But nonetheless, to sit there and then be as a person say that it don't exist and that we're in a different time and things have changed, that's not how things really work, People don't really change, because people benefit through systems that for their preservation. And you think they're going to make a way where there's really even playing field where you can come up easily as a person. No. You got, what I'm saying, this is like blood sport, and people play for keeps. So to know that it can never go away like that because it's for their own natural survival.
Exactly.
To keep a structure in place. Because think about this. If black people really understand their real place in the world, and why they have to keep you at a certain level, it's like any parasite. I got a host onto you to keep feeding. You provide me the nutrients, the subsidies for my strength, my, what's the word, to survive. So by the time it comes to the point where you don't need me to keep suckling on you, then I have no use for you. And I need to go be on to the next host. So we had to look at, like, in nature, what's the role of a parasite, what's the role of a human, of a healthy host. And you got to put yourself in that same predicament. Like, like how they do, like, the rat or the doll test, all this. It's always got to put yourself in that scenario that they do this to test how much I could push the envelope to secure the tower. Because the world is run off a power base. There is a top, there's a bottom.
Yeah,
there's no really a middle of anything. A middle is creation, just to keep the illusion of who really runs things. But at some point, it's going to be a top and a bottom, regardless of how we do it or not. So I want people to really conduct themselves and have a more appreciation of not only your enemy, but, have this understanding that, this is a playing field, like anything else, and there's winners and losers. Don't take it personal. You know how it's in business. It's just business.
Yep. That's the way it's set up. You know what I mean? It's a race. It's just like called a race, and it's a game. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you have to deal with law, you're in court. You know what I'm saying? It's a game. You know what I'm saying? So, and you're right. You know what I'm saying? It's a race. It's a game. It's a system that's set up. It's just interesting. I always think it's kind of interesting because of the overall time frame of this establishment and power compared to let's just say white supremacy as opposed to us as melanated people, how long we were in control on this planet. So it's not even remotely close. You know what I'm saying? So as far as dealing with the time frame in which we were up in power as opposed to now.
Yes, indeed. For those that are listening, the call number for tonight's show is 712-770-4160. The access code is 915-411#. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 915-411#. Tonight's subject, Chaos Reign presents how I became conscious with my guest, Mus Zoser. If I said right, I'll get used to it.
Zoser, yeah.
Zoser, yeah, Zoser. One thing, if I'd like to ask, do you have like a library, like a little small library of yourself, of various books for your own, apartment or household as a man?
Yes, I do. I definitely have a library of books that I've, acquired throughout the years, and I just continue to try to build on it. But I definitely have I accumulate and hold on to a lot of the books that I've read throughout the years, definitely.
It's funny when I mentioned, this is the first time I asked you this. I never ask most people because when I look at a library, I always look at myself and never imagine saying, a library, I'm going to do all these books. I'm going to do books. And I never really had appreciation of the books. Some that I've completely read, some I make the time to try to read. That I never seen the value of it as a boy going in my development. But like I said, once you become conscious and you come across the information, now it makes sense that when you look at certain books, you give more a respect or appreciation of certain information that people write, and you want to gather it for your own library, just as not only reference for yourself, but for children or anybody that comes in your household to come to have that information there, to let them look at it, touch it, read it for themselves. And I feel that every household, they should have their own form of library. I prefer a physical library because books are going to still be around before we're going to come and go, regardless of technology's implemented. Because, libraries will tell how much you put the time, effort to improve your thinking and thought from what you read from others.
Very true.
Okay. Can you understand what the author is getting at with a certain historical book or a scientific book or any information that's presented to you? Can you really enter or understand the readings? That's what most people that don't think about when they look at the average book or open a book, that's what the premise is for. Because there's certain things as a purpose why an author goes out of his way to write the books they can. Hell, look at Amos Wilson. Before even his death, he wrote probably a few books, not many books, and I think if he was still alive, he would have wrote more books. But he was always in the direction of always awakening the mind of the mentally dead Negro in America.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes great pride of other black men that came before him to really see how they're able to gather mass of people and get them on a course to move in a direction where they're trying to seek power. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was always a man that was always a person that's trying to seek power. And I said, how is the best outcome to attain it for the survival of the group?
Mm-hmm.
And I never understand the power aspect of it, but he was another author, like many authors, like Francis Cress Wilson. And hell, I could say Neely Fuller, because I did read his book years ago. And then when I came across another psychologist like him, he wrote, brought a different element on how the mind should be shaped and work. He always tried to condition his students, if you go back to his lectures, to get them to think critically, think for themselves, and think critically to solve their problems. And that is very powerful as he's a teacher, not a psych teacher. He wants the black man and woman to start using the critical thinking to better themselves so they can figure out the problems to get out of their situations. Because as a man, as you know, that the more you're able to solve your own problems, the more powerful you will become as a man. Because the world is always shaped with problems. So as a man, the more you're able to effectively solve not only problems in your life but others, you are very much a valuable person to the collective in time. So that's what I got off from most of his literature. But, the library is very important in households. Another question, if I could think. The thing in regards to how you look at, let's say, in our community, if you notice, there is what we call a very much heavily divide between the sexes, between men and women. And I'm not sure if you view it. Do you feel that this problem that we face as people in regards to how we look at each other in relationships or anything, that can we as people, men and women, could at least address the problems and how we view ourselves?
I definitely see. I think, unfortunately, a lot of us, we view our world through, a foreign mindset, as opposed to indigenous mindset. So, since we're brought up in foreign schools or speaking, foreign languages, it's automatically going to put our mindset, it's automatically going to put us kind of out of our mind, as far as dealing with each other on a more indigenous, a more natural way of living. You know what I mean? Because it's like we literally, you and I are speaking English right now. You know what I'm saying? Like we more likely we went through school and we went through we had these textbooks that we were given in which other people read. We had religions that were given to us that are foreign. You know what I mean? So all of these things shape our mindset to a certain way in which would make it more difficult for us to deal with each other, like I said, more on a more indigenous level and a more natural level. It's like we've been literally like what's the word? We've been literally, just like you were talking about the system earlier, that system that's put in place also, it trickles down on every level to confuse, to misinform, and et cetera, et cetera. So as far as dealing with any aspect of critical thinking, you have to think outside the box just to even think in your right state of mind. You know what I mean?
And but even with critical thinking, it goes back, like I said, a lot of us, we don't use what is naturally given to us. It's funny with the gender war, and I only brought this question up, is that it is really heavily orchestrated just to capitalize us more in regards to taking our resource, more to the dollar bill from our communities, because I did not know it was really a serious business to keep black man and black woman separate instead of looking at themselves as more than just sex objects, but or even relationships, because they rack up in the billions when we are separate. When women do their own thing and men do their own thing, they're not coming together with anything cohesive, anything constructive. Only time when it deals with that is when it deals with bedroom. But outside bedroom, there's chaos, unfortunately.
Exactly. But just like you were saying, though, it's a part of that system. You know what I mean? It's like even going back, to the whole Willie Lynch thing, like, trying to keep in, the black, the dark skin against the light skin, the men against the fit. It's all a part of this system. You know what I mean? And it was a plan that was written back in the day, and it just, it's the same playbook, and they just keep running the same play. You know what I'm saying? We haven't figured out the defense for you, but you know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. Gender wars. All of these different things is all a part of just keeping us divided and separate.
It's interesting you mentioned the Willie Lynch. I had an elder that's from North Carolina that actually wrote that letter back in the 70s that has an interviewer. And I tell you, brother, we're very talented people. As much as people don't know it or not, that when they was pushed out in front of us, even from this Israel I mentioned, they never really checked the source if this man really existed. I never checked the source until I came across certain people that revealed certain people that exist in our community. So I had to do what I'm always to reach out to this elder, and he's also in the field of psychology. And that's that. African psychology, like Wade Nobles and all stuff. And he explained the purpose why he wrote it. It was a dissertation he was going for his, I think, either master's or PhD. I think he was going for a PhD at that time. That he wrote one day and then just put it down. And somebody might have came up with it and took what he wrote and put it on paperback.
On paper.
But if I can remember, this is what I remember. This is like 4 years ago. I have the recording of the whole broadcast on my channel. But, I'll tell you where you can listen to yourself. But, yeah, he was one that created because he sees himself as a captive slave and say, how can I keep a race of people divided and dysfunction? And that's when Lowell became what we call Will Lynch letter, that he has to divide gender, color, role, etc. All of this is for the purpose of maintaining control. When people are found and are not in a proper direction of self or working with self, you are easily picked off. So, and mind you, it keeps the actual slave master comfortable to sleep at bed at night. Because he knows that with a pile of 100 or more slaves in his household doing his bidding, it's going to take at least one of them to go in while you're asleep and slit your throat. So the fear was there. And mind you, the fear was a natural fear because another good book, which I could probably reference to you right now if you ever want to read it, called American Negro Slave Revolts. These are documentations, news articles that was going on in America during the 1600s up to the late 1800s of how they dealt with slavery. There were a lot of revolts, a lot of killings, a lot of burning out crops and stuff. These are things that are not disclosed in history books. Why is that? Because, and mind you, when I came across and I read it for myself, I've noticed one thing that the Europeans did respect that was granted most of the blacks that either were free blacks or ones that were in chains. If you serve in the military, you were granted your freedom automatically. So it goes back again to another good example of other brothers like Charles Faulkner and Mr. Cerulean Gray. They mentioned military service in their, I think, template called the Great Faulkner Initiative, because they noticed that most institutions that the black man has been serving since the inception of America was always military service. Military is a vital tool in regards to maintaining a nation. Without military, you have no nation. And black men, even today, even back then now, are still well equipped and will have the health and body right now to even pass this basic test of the military than his so-called European counterpart, which now, from what I've heard of, from a, European Caucasoid soldier, so that they're in danger because a lot of their own people that still somewhat heavily in the military can't pass the basic fitness in the military.
Mm.
So if anything would happen to this country right now, it is very vulnerable to a degree, but if there were more black people in the military, let's say if people take it seriously, this nation probably will hold up a little longer anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been hold up. Because anything was given and was done was fought in the backs of black men.
Mm-hmm.
So they
don't
really give black people a lot of credit, especially men, because a lot of black men, on the average, Zoser, they don't understand their place in history.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. And because of this, now, what you see now is, even today, what we're finding out now as a people, that we're going to be very ass out if we're not careful. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, that's a little insight. So, but besides the Willie Lynch story, which is, I say, tell people they should still read anyway, regardless if it's written by a black man, because it tells a very much clear cut how you control people.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's obvious that everything that letter, you know what I mean, regardless if it was written, everything that letter was implemented previously. You know what I mean? Even though it might have been a letter, but it's still something that it was still a tool, that was used very successfully, to just control, it's mind control. You know what I'm saying? That's what I got primarily out of that letter. Just controlling people. You know what I'm saying? Just mind control.
A lot of people feel that mind control is just a simple process that people just get like that. No. It's an ongoing process. Controlling means psychology.
Mm-hmm.
One example, look at Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And people never understand and learn. At one time, Facebook always give a message when you log in.
Mm-hmm.
It said one time this, what's on your mind? That's psychology. What do you do? You type what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
See that? But we never think about that because we think that it's nothing big deal. It's like, why would somebody post log in to say what they want to know what you're thinking?
Mm-hmm.
That's psychology.
Mm-hmm.
There's always want to know, what is the Negro thinking? And I'll tell you a little deeper secret. I hear even stories of people say they're not around certain non-blacks, Caucasian people especially. They always, if they're not around us, they always talking about black people.
Mm-hmm.
It's on their mind. The ones that's doing pretty well or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understand, why would they waste time talking about us and we're not in the room? Because they're always thinking about us in some fashion or way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why that is, as you know, it goes back to some form of power at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're all secure, everything's all good, and you have no worries, the people that is not part of your phenotype should not be worried. But they always got to be on our mind, on our psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So control is not just control of just the mind; it's control everything.
Mm-hmm.
How you move, how you breathe, every aspect. Because this is something of inherent survival mechanism through their traumas they've gone through. And how I said, if you remember Keenan Booker, my other guest I had on the following show, that this is embedded to a lot of people epigenetically. Kicked Out of Heaven Volume 1 explains the traumas non-blacks, aka Europeans, gone through during the first 10,000 years of history. Going through the Ice Age, going through constant changes of the weather, from cold to severe cold to catastrophes like waters or flooding. All this embeds into the psyche of people that had to survive the harsh environments. And in their thinking, they said, never again. Once they get a foot of power, they'll work hard, they'll work even overtime to maintain it. So that's a little insight I just want to share. One other thing I do want to say, and hold on, let me check the board. Another thing, and I do see y'all in the chat room in the YouTube, Thank you, MJ. In regards to the economic aspects, do consciousness, from your understanding, as a man or woman, do you feel that our people are more or have a better, clear understanding of economics, or someone went to school not to really make use of the money we have now, to not only let's say to better ourselves, but just how to operate in even the environment we're in now, where everything like living and expenses going up? That are we really responsible now with the money we have now to really subsidize these problems?
Yeah, I think because of just the internet, and all that the information that's out there, it's more since it's more accessible. The people that have that in their mind, that are trying to better themselves, now there's literally no excuse. You can't say, "Oh, school didn't teach me this," my mom and dad didn't teach me, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? We're at the point now in which, we can use all these other races literally as examples of how to do things. When you have different races like the Asians, they all stick together, they work together, to build businesses. The Jews, they work together, they put finances in a part of their literally their culture. Obviously we're not advanced as they are, because they've been doing this. They've had these systems set up for thousands of years. But now, like me personally, like perfect examples, like my dad, he was a carpenter. He owned his own business. It was pretty successful. But he did a good job with his money. But he just worked so much, he was never really able to hand down that knowledge to me. You know what I mean? So for me to learn about economics and finance, I learned straight up all this stuff on YouTube and by reading books. You know what I mean? So the people that there's no difference between, if you're conscious and you're living in a reality, in a world in which finances, play a big part of, capitalism, I should say, plays a big part of the world. Then, if you're going to be a part of the world, you got to learn how to play the game. Just like we were saying about court earlier. If you want to learn how to play, if you want to be good at basketball, you got to learn how to play the game. So at this point, there's really no excuse why anybody that is, quote unquote, conscious or aware, not to take that same thing when they're sitting there reading these books about all these great black leaders, not to add in addition, this information about finances and et cetera. It's not hidden anymore. You know what I mean? So it's out for us all. So it's still the same way. It's like anything else. If you want to be a weightlifter, you got to get in the gym to lift. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be a better person, and you do these things to uplift yourself, you got to read, you got to get the knowledge, and to be a well-rounded being, finances is a part of that for you and your family, and for the future, your family.
And because when I mention finance, and I tell people, basic finance is now accessible more than ever. Hell, at one time, a decade ago, or let's say 15 years ago, before the internet started to take off a little more, for the first 10 years or so, or greater than 10 years, certain things was under our fingertips, but we never know how to utilize it like that. But as we go from the 3G to 4G, and now we're in 5G, things excel more because the internet now is able to move much faster with better bandwidth. So with better bandwidth, now you're able to process information at a more of less than a second. So you can easily do a simple search engine, and it will give you those thousands of hits of sites or even actual videos to show you how to do certain basic stuff that was never access to us over 10, I would say 13, 15 years ago.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I remember when they said the first online purchase ever was 15 years ago.
Oh my God.
I thought the first online purchase was like like 13 or almost close to 10, like more 12 years ago. But when I came across that information, because it was something that because of the quality of, the trust of buying something online, it was experiment, but it was not perfected until 2005, per se. And after that, because things move faster with 4G implement, more people are taking advantage of promoting and selling products or creating their own business online. As you don't see it in the mass numbers, but because of this, COVID situation, if you don't have like an actual tangible website to sell your product and promote by creating ad revenue to certain sites, you're not going to stay long in business very long.
Exactly. I don't know if you even started.
It was good because everything's moving very to digital faster than we expected. And it's all intentionally, if you think about it, because they want to speed the things up. You see, outside America, everybody is very much ahead. We're behind.
I agree.
And it's going to take another decade, maybe a decade and a few years to somewhat, and I say somewhat loosely, catch up.
I agree.
I'm not sure if you ever traveled to. No, go ahead. You about to say something?
Oh no! I mean, that's a wonderful example. Like I'm gonna give you a small example. Like when I used to live in London, and when I lived there, everybody over there had. This is back in the late '90s, right? Everybody had cell phones. Everybody had cell phones, right? But back in the States, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? We didn't have that type of technology and the hope. That they had of course it was different with the data and everything. It wasn't unlimited data, all that good stuff. But it was coming from London back to the States. It was like I went back in time. You know what I mean? Not like it was a huge thing, a horse and buggy thing, but it was still dealing with the technology. It was definitely behind, without a doubt. So I agree. I mean, I experienced that, so I agree with you 100%.
It's interesting you mentioned London, because I remember when they said about like the credit cards. They now start putting chips in credit cards for the last 10 years here, but they said they've been had that in London since 2000, mid 2000s. So when we get it, they're already moving on to something more advanced. Once we get it. So when I'm not sure if ABC's listening. When you worry about the so-called chip in people, like our chip in people's skin, all that nonsense, there's videos of that in Europe.
Yep, so I've seen it. I've seen it too.
Yeah. So when people are concerned about it, I said they're already doing it outside America already.
Exactly.
So the people outside America are using it, no problem. Don't be surprised it's here in America very soon.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm not anybody, but you get what I'm saying. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I'll be dead honest with people that these things are already here already, as you haven't seen it here in this country yet. Like holograms, all these things that we watch in movies and all this nonsense, right? That I think in I don't know if it's China or Japan, they already have image where phones have actual holograms. We don't have it here in America yet, but they said we're going to eventually have it in the next 6-7 years. So that means they're already running through a higher bandwidth. They're using 5G already as we speak. They're already up to the levels and times. And the technology, America, just like you said, you leave this country, go somewhere else. They're up on things, and when you come back, you say, damn, I'm back to square one. And especially cell phones, because cell phones, if you really think about it, cell phones didn't really start getting really popping until 2000.
2000, exactly right.
And they were having it when you went to London back in the, let's say mid to early 90s or late or mid 90s. So I tell people this is not something new. Not something new at all. Nothing really is new under the sun. So, like I said, what you've seen already or what you have not seen is already here.
It's already here.
They had to catch up with a lot of things. Innovation is not something that you just see and it's wow. No, it's always been here. As you've never seen it.
Exactly.
And And my other question, because you say travel, what other countries have you visited outside of America that you recall?
I've been to Jamaica. I've been to Haiti. I've been to Mexico. I've been to London. I've been to let's see, what else have I been to? I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it as of now.
I mean, you're lucky you traveled to a few countries. I only went to like maybe 2 or 3. And eventually I have to go to the part of the world if everything, plays its course for me, hopefully. But, I tell most people, every man, women, especially men, that it would be nice for every black man, if they can in America, to really travel outside America to see how the world is and where your position is in the world. I mean, one thing
that's one of the most important things I would tell anybody is to travel outside of the United States, because same thing, we're talking about the technology. Like, I'm gonna tell you something. I talk about this in the book. When I moved to London, like, I lived in this hostel, right? And in the hostel there was 5 other people living in this room. 2 girls from Sweden, guy from New Zealand, guy from Australia, and a girl from France, right? And they were all white Europeans, so they would, since they spoke English and they had their passports, they could work, and because the European Union, they could work there. So every day, like, when everybody came home from work and, got ready to go to sleep or whatever, we just sit around and talk. And, now granted, this is when I just left the States, and I had my experience just growing up around, racist white Southerners being from Virginia, just a certain mindset that I always attributed to white people, white American Southern people, So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these people talk, right? And I used to talk to them about the racism in America, and they used to look at me like I was crazy. They're like, they would be like, why would people do stuff like that? They were looking at me like I was lying about how we got, treated over there. And I said to myself, damn, y'all are white. Y'all don't think this way about black people. Y'all don't treat black people this way. This isn't normal for y'all. And they were like, nah. I mean, number one is they just didn't have, they weren't exposed with the diversity. They weren't exposed to as much black people as you in America. Well, and depending on what cities you are, but the people that they did encounter in their countries, that wasn't a part of their culture, the racist culture like it is here. You know what I mean? So I had to learn real quick that everybody didn't think like a white American. You know what I mean? And that took some time for me to it kind of blew my mind, to be honest with you, just because I always looked at race and people and kind of group put everything in a one box. But the more I traveled around the world, the more I realized you can't do that, because everybody doesn't think like white people from the South in America.
It's interesting you mention that, and this is in which country? London, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, and I see you on the line, Greg. I'm up your line in like 1 2 minutes. I've noticed, and this is my conclusion to the so-called American experiment, that when Europe was in a direction of, I guess, expansion and about to be or go into the area of being dominant in power, they send the worst of their worst to do their bidding and work for them to pay off what we call debt. I know that these people in America for centuries are the worst of these set of people.
I agree.
Because outside of America, and I hear stories from London, Germany, there are certain things you cannot do as a European man back home in your homeland in Europe to a non-black person per se. Not saying racism doesn't still precipitate or there's certain things to put for the preservation, but they're not going to act and conduct themselves away in their homeland towards others because they have what we call a gentleman-like behavior.
Mhm.
They carry themselves with class and dignity.
Mhm. Exactly.
You get me? The Europeans here, for
Mhm.
it really applies, carry themselves as brutes and average savages.
Mhm.
So
I agree.
So that's
Yeah.
why when you tell them your experience from America to them in Europe, yeah, they're going to look at you a certain way because they say, what do you mean? We don't treat people like that per se.
Mhm.
We don't conduct ourselves because there's a certain mentality. You know, you have to be less of a human or a criminal to conduct yourself in the land of your forefathers.
A degenerate way. Exactly.
Yeah, and they have to send you because you did so much criminal acts that they can't keep here. So they said it's better to make use of you and you have to pay off a debt like anything else. So let me open the line. Somebody raise their hand. What's good? Who's this, Craig?
Greg, what's up, Kat? What's up, Chaos? What's you up to?
What's good, brother? What's on your mind? Anything for my guest, or
it was interesting. He was talking about white people. I remember when I went to Europe in the army, and I was meeting Germans and Austrians, and I was struck by how different they were from the American whites and how they knew a lot about our history here in this country. I was surprised they knew about King and Medgar Evers. And I was like shocked. 16-year-old girls knew more about Black history than I did. I remember being a little bit embarrassed. I was embarrassed by it. 16-year-old white German girls telling me about Medgar Evers and Denmark Vesey, and I didn't even know who they were. Denmark Vesey, and so that 4 years there, I learned that the whites here are different. I'm not saying there's not racism in Germany and Europe, but like the man was saying, the whites that came to America, England had a problem with overcrowding. They couldn't feed itself, and they had a bunch of crime, pickpockets. So America was pretty much a dumping ground for the lower level white people in Europe. And then they got rid of the convicts in Australia. The Germans came a little bit later because they need craftsmen over here. So they brought the Germans and the Dutch came, but not that many. But so the whites we're dealing with here are basically Euro trash. And that's
degenerate. Degenerate.
Yeah, they are, and that's what black men need to understand. And as far as like the brother talking to white folks, I don't talk to white people, man. I mean, I try to limit my interactions with them, and when I do talk to them, I don't talk about anything of substance at all, ever. And I think brothers should start doing that, man. Quit talking to these people. They act like,
it's funny. It's funny you said that, man. It's funny because like I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, right? And I personally don't have much interaction. I don't know if any of y'all ever been to Atlanta or whatever the case may be. Y'all know how it is.
Atlanta. I used to go to Piedmont Park all the time.
Yeah, Piedmont. Yeah. Well, I live in Decatur, right? Like I live in Decatur, right? So it's very rare you see any white people at all. You know what I mean? And my thing is, through my experience in the past, I feel exactly like you do. It's like I don't really, unless it's business or something, like that. Yeah, I don't have any motivation to really interact with them. Not on a, not like on a, I hate anybody like that, but like, I just don't, if I can talk to you about football, and we know how to talk about football, and you want to talk about, cricket, I'm going to talk to you about football. I ain't going to talk to this other person about cricket because I don't know about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how it is for me here. You know what I mean? Just actually, to be honest, ever since I moved here, the 2000s, I really don't interact with them because I really don't have any reason to interact with them.
Well, for one thing about whites, man, you notice when they talk to you, they never reveal themselves to you, but they're always probing you for questions. Have you ever noticed that about white folks? They're always asking, they're always asking at the interview questions, but they never let you know how they really feel about things. I always notice that about them. And a lot of brothers don't understand that shit. Like when you talk to white folks, they're just trying to get information out of you to see what type of black man you are. And I hear brothers just blabbing on, but the white man has to sit there and listen, the white woman, and he won't say anything. You won't get a gist of how he feels about anything. And I always tell brothers on the show, because they always accuse me of being a coon and a tom, because I don't talk about racism, speak out on it. It's because I think we as black folks need to start having a little bit of cultural privacy and quit letting everybody know how we think about everything. Does that make sense to you, bro? I mean, are you with me on this one? We need to build.
Well, I think that with like kind of going back to what I said previously, it's like because of our mindset. If we get in our right mindset, an indigenous mindset, a mindset that hasn't been in which this system, like in my book, I literally say that that this system only makes Negroes and niggers. Like we have to. That's what the system's made for. You know what I mean? We literally have to do our own thing to, like we say, become conscious, and we got to think outside of the box. We got to do our stuff outside of the system to get that way. So once you're at a certain point and you're dealing with, like you're saying, you're dealing with your own culture, then those people, you wouldn't even want to talk to those people. And if they want to talk to you, you still wouldn't want to talk to them because you can't relate to them. Because look, like you're saying, in your culture, you know what I'm saying?
Only problem I have is this, is that we all grew up here in America. I did. I don't know if you did or not. We're all part of the Uncle Tom. I call it the Uncle Tom continuum. We're all part of it, man. We grew up here. We watch TV. I don't know how we get our minds back. Okay? I mean, think about it. We lost our minds on those slave ships. The Europeans took our minds, and we have their minds pretty much. We're just basically white, black people.
I agree.
Okay. How do we get – this is a serious question. How do we get our minds back? I mean, we have to have some rules. We have to have some I'm not into this black culture. I don't know what black culture is in America. Well, I mean, what is it? Buying shit, looking good.
I don't know. There is no black. There is no black culture. There's no real black culture as far as like other races have culture. For example, you talk to a Japanese person, they're going to dress a certain way. They got their language. Yeah. You talk to an Indian person, they dress a certain way. They got their language. Here in America, this quote unquote American culture is something that we just was pretty much made. That was made through, like you said, from slavery on. It was something that we just put together. You go to different parts of the country. In the world. Africans have culture. They have their language. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They speak. They have their whole indigenous. I know, like people don't realize how deep culture is for black folks outside of America. Like, in Africa, you just like in other races. In other countries, when you marry somebody, you got to do the dowry thing. You know what I'm saying? You just can't marry somebody. They got to know your last name. You know what I'm saying? It's something we don't even do over here in America that people of color have been doing, since, goddamn the beginning of time as far as us human evolution. So this black culture thing, like you're saying, it's a culture, but it's not a progressive beneficial culture.
And I'll tell you what, something else is that here in America, I remember I was talking to this African dude, and I was learning about culture in Africa because I was starting to interest. I remember when I went to Germany, I was watching German TV. I didn't understand. I was just watching it, and they were talking about a conference in Africa from these African nations that were trying to stop something. I don't know. They were trying to do something, and I'd never seen Africans like conducting themselves in that way. They were wearing suits and their dashikis and shit, and they were talking about a problem in some other country. I had never seen that in America, because in America they show us feast and famine from Africa, and disease and civil war, and then in Africa they show the American blacks. They show us the savages and gang violence. That's what they do, man. But one thing I want to say is that in Africa, man, I actually didn't know this, that there was this guy, I think he's from Ghana or wherever the fuck he's from, somewhere, or Gabon. He was telling me that the children are raised from where he was from by the males in the family, like the uncles and the brothers, raise his sister's kids, and that because that's the only way to establish true paternity because they know if it comes out of his sister, that's his nephew or his niece. They raise the kids, the uncles and the brothers. That's how they do it over there. They don't have the father shit we have here where he was from. Like the guy can go out and just make babies, whatever, and then her brother will raise that kid. And then if his sister has a baby, he raises that child. That was his culture, and I didn't know that until he explained it to me. But the point, the thing about culture, man, one thing I'll make is that it takes hundreds and hundreds of years to establish culture. America's only 250 years old or so.
Yep, exactly.
It's going to take us, 400 years to establish culture. America doesn't really have any culture. It's a young country, relatively.
That's true.
Countries around the world. So, we always talk about this black culture shit. I don't know what it is besides nigga shit, buying shit, trying to look prettier than the other nigger walking around here. I mean, that's what I see, and getting shoes and hair and buying Cadillacs and rims. I don't know what culture is, man, because to me it's just materialism from what I'm seeing. And I've been to Atlanta. And Atlanta is one of the most, outside of L.A., I thought Atlanta was the most materialistic city I've ever been in my life, man.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm not lying. I mean, I would meet women, they were like, where you work, what you drive in. I mean, it was pretty quick. And I was like, damn, I just met you, girl, 5 minutes ago, shit. But I don't know how we get our minds back, man. How do we get our minds back? Do you have any
idea? A lot of it just has the same thing we're talking about. The brother said, one of the main questions just being about being conscious and aware, because you're not going to follow anybody, any type of I know plenty of people, Black Americans, all right, that have embraced different African spiritual systems and their cultures, and it's like it fits them like a glove on a hand, just because it's a part of their DNA, and they made it home to where they needed to get their studies, you know what I'm saying, or a part of their culture. You see what I'm saying? So the culture that you're referring to, this this non-culture that you're referring to, it for you to find true culture, you're literally going to have to go back in your genes and connect with your ancestors and et cetera, and they're going to put you in the right direction of getting some type of true culture that can make you a progressive being, because I know plenty of people that, like me personally, I started to study Haitian voodoo, but I learned from another brother, which was a Black American, and he went back and forth from Africa, and he was first studying voodoo, so that's a culture in itself. There's a language, there's a way to dress, this culture all attached to it. So the culture's there. It's just a matter of just doing the work and gravitating to something that really that you can embrace personally.
Well, me, I'm not talking about myself because I'm an older brother. I'm kind of set in my ways, but I don't know what you're saying is workable. I think we need to. I don't think brothers are going to want to embrace African culture. I really don't think that's the way we're going to go.
But the thing is, it doesn't matter, because like the people that do, then so be it. Because you can't. Everybody's not going to be conscious, aware. Everybody's not going to be, wanting to be progressive and et cetera, et cetera. You understand what I'm saying? They say, many are called, few are chosen, right? That's what the good book says, right? So us as a culture, it's going to be the minority of us that are going to get it, and it's going to be the minority of us that are going to be able to teach other ones that want to know.
Well, me, I don't know if that's workable. I mean, I'm because we are Americans, and we are entwined with American culture of materialism and shit. So I don't think that's going to work. But what I would like to see work is maybe some ground rules, discipline, code of conduct for us to have as a race. Pretty much like the Asians have. The Asians have that, and the Jews
and the Africans.
Well, Africans have that too, but
one of the reasons I'm sorry, go ahead.
Africans have their own issues, man. I've got issues with Africans too, their culture and shit.
Yeah, but on the flip side, Africa's a big ass country with a lot of different cultures and tribes and languages, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So that, you know what I'm saying? But going back to one of them, like the brother, like I named my book Bicultural, Living and Leaving the World of Illusion, because of exactly what you're talking about. Huh?
What's the name of your book? What's the name of your book?
It's Bicultural, Living and Leaving the World of Illusion. B.I., yeah. Bicultural, Living and Leaving.
I get on Amazon or what?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And I'm sure the brother going to give me that time to talk about that. But the reason why I named it that is the exact reason you're talking about right now. And if you pull it up and you look at my book cover, you see one side of me, straight up American, got a polo shirt on, I got shades on, I got a baseball hat, I got my sneakers on, and I have the American journey on one side of the book, and on the other side I have me dressed in more of a traditional garb with other ancient deities and et cetera from Africa, Kemet, et cetera, et cetera. Because just like you're saying, I grew up as an American. You know what I'm saying? I am an American, you know, but because I've experienced other things and traveled around and embraced other cultures, you know, now it's like a bicultural. You know what I'm saying? So it's more than just being an American.
You know what? Here's where I like to see us go. It's a future black race. Mm-hmm. I would like this to be somewhat. I think we should have sort of a homeland similar to what the Jews have in Israel, and we should go back and forth between here in America, maybe a country in Africa, and we could work and help develop this African nation, and still have a place here in America. We can go back and forth just like the Jews do. They go to Israel, you know, they come here and they work together a lot of times with Israel and the United States. That I would like to see. You know, I think that's where we should be going. As far as it's back to Africa, I actually don't think that's workable, to be honest. I know a lot of people that do it. Honestly, like they go like same thing you just described. Mainly like in places like Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, different places in which really have opened their arms at the Africans. You know, people do it, but it's still like we said earlier. I mean, it's still going to be a small minute of individuals that even want to even think about doing something like that. You know, because they're going to want to have the Cadillacs. They're going to want to have the Jordans. Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's Cadillacs in Africa, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I know that. I'm referring to the American mindset.
You get air conditioner over there. So most of the brothers in this country are asleep. You know, I would say 80% of them.
I agree.
I say 80-90% of the brothers are asleep. You know.
I agree.
Okay, Greg.
Huh? Yes, sir.
I have two people raise their hands, so let me take this call.
All right, Chaos.
That was good, Greg. Thank you. Let me open. Okay, who's this? Joshua?
Yeah.
Stay right there. And open the line. Who's this? Hello? Open your other line. Hello? All right, well. If you could speak. Okay. What's good, Joshua? What's on your mind? With my guest?
No. I was listening at your guest. I wanted to kind of ask him a question, you know, about falling in love with this Americanism, and I think that's what your guest is probably experiencing and talking to people. One thing about black people here in America, we don't want to let this shit go. Period.
Mm-hmm.
We love this shit. We think this shit loves us. But when we are experiencing the shit that we're going through, we're not citizens. They don't treat us. They show us that every time something comes up, they do not show us that we're citizens. But you get these people that walk around here, and they think they're citizens. They think they're Americans. I always tell brothers this as a metaphor. I'm not American. Fuck it. I am not that. So how can I accept something that doesn't even love my fellow people? That's just, to me, that's just baffling to me. That's just crazy. How can I love some shit like that? Motherfucker walk around with the American flag. Fuck that flag. I'd rather, you know what my dream is? I'd rather see this shit obliterate and fall. I'd rather see this shit fall. But no one Negroes say, "Oh, why are you saying that?" Motherfucker, shit. I don't want to be no system that keeps oppressing me. I don't want to be no system that won't even apologize or make amends for what they did in the past. I don't want to be in a country like that. You see?
I agree with you, man. Brother, I agree with you. And the more and more I leave the country, the more and more that becomes more of a more of a reality,
right.
and adds on to the case that you're bringing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
right.
It's like I try to tell people that America is not the end or the end all of everything. You know what I'm saying? Far from it. Like if you go to California, right, you can step right across that border and you're in Mexico. You know, you had a whole new culture. You know what I'm saying? And it's completely different, and you're treated differently. You know, you're treated differently. I'm gonna tell you. I always tell people when they ask me how it is feeling in America, I said being black in America is like you walk outside, you got a 800 pound gorilla on your back with a target on it.
Right.
That's how it feels like being in America. You know.
Right.
When I went to different places, I tell people all the time that gorilla shrunk down to a daggone almost like a those little monkeys that be playing you play the music and they stand on the shoulder like a smaller monkey, The monkey's still there. The monkey's still there, but it ain't that big ass gorilla in your back, So it's like, how in the world, do you, knowing that gorilla's in your back every day, how do you, internalize that to your own reality and not have resentment for it? It's impossible.
Right. So you're right, exactly.
And you know what I'm saying? We drive around the street. You know what I'm saying? Fortunately, like I said, I live in Atlanta, so it's a little different because most of the cops black. But so I've never had any issues. But back in Virginia where I'm from, man, you just try to goddamn go to the 7-Eleven, you cops pulling you over, cussing you out. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of cases, even worse. You can't even live your life like a normal human being. Right.
And this another thing. And I think we had this kind of had this conversation last night, and the question was raised to me. Somebody asked me a question. Do you think our ancestors were happy? And I said, no, they were not happy. And people always say, well, our ancestors helped build this country. We helped build this. We did this. No, we did things out of necessity, not the fact that we were happy. We did it because we had to do it, not because we were. You see, so that's why I tell people all the time, everything that we have contributed to this America is out of necessity, because we had to do it. It was it was more like the fact that we can prove that we can do it, or we can prove that they, particularly at that time, they can do it. But as we see out through history, we understand that they often penalize the progressive blacks at that time. They often penalize them by doing what to them? Lynching them. If you was a black person with some wealth, generally you were a target.
Yeah, I and I agree, and I talk about. There's two things that you're bringing up that I talk about in the book. I have a chapter called Black Wall Street. And in another chapter, I talk about, I call it, it's called America, the Great Divide. But one thing that people have to understand about America itself is that this planet as well was all of ours from the jump. You know what I'm saying? Even America, because you have Native Americans that I'm not. You sound like you are a melanated brother. You know what I'm saying? With kinky hair, melanated skin, but this America, the Native Americans look like, you and I and the other brothers, and sisters. That's how this America was set up. And then, you have the Asian people that came in, and the Africa, like the Olmecs, I used to say, and the Asians started having sex, and then you have people that look like the Native American Indians and Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. So my point in saying all of this is that that's another thing that we have to understand, is that our true history predates American history. even as Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that we have to put that in perspective as well, because, like you were just saying, I don't know if that might have been the other person. I can't remember what you were saying, but how short of a time frame how young America truly is.
And slavery wasn't that. See, and what I always tell people, that this practice of slavery in America wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got to think about it this way: when did apartheid end? South Africa.
South Africa, 1990 something.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was like yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yeah.
So you got these places like Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and the people in Africa in which they just got out of colonization and just got their new names, so they're starting to regain, their renounce the colonialism and, become independent. This is still a very short period of time, in the human race, and in all honesty, the white folks on this planet have not been around that long at all,
No.
So this time frame, that's why they always like to tie things into the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran, because they try to make that time frame they try to legitimize themselves through these books, in which once you go past these books in the time frame, they're non-existent.
Right. And like I was to kind of add on to what you're saying, if you don't mind, I'm gonna add on to what you're saying that we need to, and I can't say this thing enough, man. We got to create a paradigm that works for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we, for some reason, we just don't. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we still tend to want to hang on to America. I mean, look, and it gets to a point for me where I have to speak for myself. I can't speak for other people because people love this country, man. Mm-hmm. People love this shit, and it doesn't matter what they do to say, maybe not to me, but what they're doing to people who look like me, what they're doing to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's real hard for me. I've been outside the country too, and people ask me where I'm from, and I struggle to say that I'm from the U.S.
I know, me too.
I struggle with that. I say,
I was in Mexico one time, and they had this like at a resort, and they did this, like, how they have those contests and stuff like that, and and they were going around asking people, where they're from. I didn't raise my hand, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't telling them I was an American. Sure, I don't know if they're trying to, the Mexicans, how much they hate Americans, black, they were tearing folks up down there, you know what I'm saying, for being American. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I struggle with that, man. I was in Brazil, Bahia, and the young lady asked me where was I from, and I had to take a breath first. I was just like, because I don't want to say that this, because I don't feel like an American. So if I really felt like an American, I'd been, oh yeah, I'm from America. I would have straight out said that shit. But if for me, I'm like, y'all just don't know. But again, but me and the sister from Brazil had a little conversation, had a little broken English. She was talking to me, and I said, our ancestors have a similar story like your ancestors do. And she said, yeah, I know. And she started smiling at me. So if she knew because they kept looking at me and said, they wanted to know, what was I? You see, they went, okay, who is it? Because he's not a typical black man from Brazil because he doesn't speak Portuguese. So that's how they were looking, like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like I said,
one thing on, because we're all talking this conscious stuff and et cetera, one thing that, and it was interesting, there was a clip I heard, Bobby Hemmett, I reposted on my page, my Instagram page, but Bobby Hemmett was basically saying, like, he was like, we're Native, we're Native Americans, we're Moors, we're Egyptians. He said, we're all that and not that because we're primordial. You know, because you know us as Nubians, Olmecs, whatever you want to name it. We've been on this planet. We've been walking around with the goddamn dinosaurs, and you know they'll tell you that. The white man, you know, their scientists will tell you, you know, that that's how long we've been on this planet. You know, so we're beyond all of that. It's just that the cycles of time, you know what I mean? They put people at certain levels of hierarchy, and then also, you know, high levels and low levels. So this cycle of time in which black folks, in which we really had amnesia, you know, it's still been a short period of time compared to our reign as black people on this planet. You see what I'm saying? It's a very short period of time in which we have amnesia. We lost culture, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And getting back to what you were saying from a historical standpoint, I always, you know, reference, you know, Nubia all the time. I reference Nubia. I know Egypt became the pinnacle of civilization based on the fact that they were literal, meaning that they wrote down everything. The people who preceded the Kemites, Nubians, you got the people of Nubia, but then you had the people of Karma. You had the people of Meroe. These people preceded Egypt by 1,000 years. They preceded Kemet by about 1,000 years. The Egyptians themselves would tell you, oh, those are our cousins. But the Kemites will also tell you, too, the people in the interiors of Africa is their ancestors. That's what they said.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Right. So that's why I got to say, man, but again, we have to create our own paradigm from an African-centered perspective, man. That's how I see it. I don't see it no other way. You can come to me with something different at any time. I'm saying the only way we can do it is we have to, create a paradigm that's going to work for us, because this has not worked for. It's not working for us. It's never will going to work for us. And like I was saying, if we don't get it together, bro, we're going to go into a third captivity. Watch us. We will go into a third captivity. You see, so that's what I got to say, man. I'm not gonna hold you along. I know Gary got another caller, but good guess, Gary, and thanks, man.
Thank you, Joshua. Now, my take. I'm gonna ask you one more question, Zoser, before I wrap this up. In regards to what black people do, in regards to direction, if they should network, either relocate or wherever you want to do. I tell people many times that we're now living in a global system now. And this global system has really been pushed more than ever in the last 20 years. That you as a black person in America, depending on your situation, financial or whatever, you're going to have to learn to network with people.
Exactly.
And that means you're going to have to stop being antisocial, which they're conditioning people right now to be. I'm so sorry. Be. But I think you did went to Africa, right, Luther?
No, I haven't been yet. I plan on going. The closest I've been to Africa, I have to say, is Haiti, because that
I'm sorry. Don't worry. If you have good, it's fine. But the premise I saw a picture of the Egyptian. I don't know if that's a screen thing with you and the pyramids, but
the pyramid.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. But
that was in Mexico. That was in Teotihuacan.
Oh, nice. Anyway, my thing is this: to most black men and women don't understand this. Outside America, you cannot be antisocial in Africa. I'm going to give you a little game right now. I listen to Mr. Duke Jackson, and he's in Africa right now. He tells you personally that these people in the continent network. They work with each other.
Exactly.
Us as black people in America, we don't have a actual custom right now, a certain thing with us that we're networking, work with each other in America like that for now going on more than almost half a century. Why I say this is because when we're unified and everybody is considered unified through civil rights, every black man, woman that had a business or worked with black people for whatever reason started dispersed like roaches. like road. So now, if people think say the America's out and you want to go somewhere, you better be damn sure well versed in socializing.
Exactly.
If not,
that's true.
You better get out of that now and fast. Because I guarantee you, when the people that go up there or have the opportunity to go up there, they will have a better chance to not only survive but make it work in their fashion. The average black man or woman today cannot do that because we are not trained to be social. So don't imagine you go to a completely black nation. You went to the islands. You went to Mexico. I take it, Zoser, you went and found black Mexicans.
Yep.
Now, ask me a question. Are these people that you come across very sociable?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you know,
they work
100%. Yeah, 100%. And you know, they, especially when they look like, you know, when they look like you and they kind of tell you're not from there, and they want to talk to you about, you know, they want to find out, you know, what's up, just like any other family member that you might have. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I just noticed. Like you're saying, just the sense of socialism, also tribalism. I guess you might want to put them that as well. You know, that as well. But you know, yes, 100%. You know, these people, you nailed it. Like you nailed it. You have to be able to network, you know, with your folks. You know what I'm saying? With your people to be successful, just to live.
And the reason why I mention is because a lot of people, regardless of how we view America, you're stuck as American citizen here, the average black person. And I'm not saying black people are, you know, have to be confined to this soil. But notice that outside here, if you're not developing these habits, developing these skills now in life now, anything you do outside America is going to be a failure. You're going to rush back here in a matter of months or a year.
Exactly.
I know a few people. You know a few people that lived in Africa or lived anywhere and had to come right back here. Why? Because it got too rough. It's not a comfort because this infrastructure outside America is not that good. Outside America.
Exactly.
And mind you, the reason why we have good infrastructure is because we build it throughout the decades. Second to Europe or China, where we have running water, internet. Do I need to go more? These are things that sustain active civilization. Outside here, most people don't even got a pot to piss in, and I'm not going to go anymore. You get what I'm saying. So when I hear this conversation, it sounds good, it sounds wonderful, but overall, to sell it to the Negroes here in America, black men,
no way. Yep.
It will not work.
Nope, no way in hell.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all a secret right now. And I'm gonna mute yourself, Joshua, because I'm not taking no more calls. Try to get this out. You're going to have to fight this bastard, this oppressor, one way or the other. Your ancestors that was took in captivity, and you're here, yes, but they put in work to get you to this level now. Exactly. That tells you there are going to be more works until the day there's no longer a descendant slave living in America completely. You're going to put in some work to get what is rightfully yours. And I tell most black people here, you know what the fuck to do. I have to tell you that. Zoser to tell you that, and no one has to tell you what you should be doing. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to have this conversation again. But the last question I want to ask, the religious side of things. So in regards to religion, not spirituality, I had this conversation with Crumb, your good friend. What is your take and understanding of religion? How you see now as an older adult now, male, and now being conscious?
What's my take on, like, religion?
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, I mean, religion, most religions are just man-made. They're man-made at a specific time to control people, to, in a lot of ways, just get to guide people with morals. But going back earlier, like I said earlier, it's like we predate all these religions. And our ancient cultures predate these religions as well. So my take on it is, if it works for you and it makes you a good person, then so be it. But it is not remotely close to the beginning and end all of anything as far as dealing with the time frames of the planet. You know, a lot of the people in the Bible are fictitious characters. There's a lot of symbolism in the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. There's a lot of, plagiarism. Religion is a man-made thing really to control people and keep them in line, So anybody that thinks outside of that box, can truly start to join that journey of knowing thyself, because they're not inside of that 6,000-year time frame of those books. They're beyond that. Their mindset is beyond each of those books. You know what I mean? So that's a free thinker. That's a free individual, and that's a person that's ultimately being progressive and becoming conscious, aware of true self.
All right, nice. Well, one thing, Zoser, what is next on your journey as a man, moving forward?
Well, I'm continuing to write books. I'm kind of still just kind of pushing this book here. Like I said, you can go to my website, www.yourbrozo.com, yourbrozo.com. And my book is on there, Bicultural Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. I'm pushing the book. I'm writing books. I'm starting to perform music. What else am I doing? What else am I doing? I know I'm doing something. Oh, yeah, I got a podcast in which, my podcast, I'm not going to say it's different. It's just that I like to kind of travel around to different places, around the country. Like I was just literally with Crumb out in Cali, and we did a podcast. I actually had him as a guest, as opposed to him, interviewing other people. So that's quite interesting. I'm excited for that to come out. But that's pretty much the main thing. I'm just going to keep on writing, keep on pushing this book, keep on meeting great individuals like you and talking, having great conversations. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. One thing, since you're now in the podcast arena, the only thing I could probably, advise, depending, we could learn from each other, is if you're doing this podcasting, one thing, the best thing you could take out of it is to be as consistent as possible. As me doing this personally for 4.5 years, it's going to be 5 by the end of middle and December. That it is challenging. It can potentially maybe get on your nerves to try to come up with a subject, but to hope that your guest comes on with their word to come as guest. And these are things that I've learned personally. I think so far, doing this for a long time, that I only had maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2.5 guests, maybe 3, but maybe 2 guests. And it's hard to remember because it rarely happens that they never show for a particular broadcast. And I think that's the more challenging of doing this as either a job or a hobby overall. That you will get frustrated, and like I said, consistency will be the pinnacle of how far you gonna take it, because to get an audience that if you never build one from other outlets and you start from scratch, it will be very challenging, because I find with the human beings or any being of any sort, the attention span is getting from bad to worse in my mind. And I know, Joe, I'm finding it very much problematic moving forward as we consider ourselves as a civilized people, that if you're as a nation and your people have very low attention span, then things that's in front of them or things that's being hidden from them can be more easily be done now. And I think where most nations outside America don't really have the same attention span that we have here in America. All this is orchestrated, all this is designed because they want to prepare people, which they are engaged in, as forever perpetual consumers. And you're not going to accomplish it when people are more attentive or more taking detail of what they're doing. You want to keep them as busy more than ever. Keep them distracted.
Yeah.
It's an old saying that they used during Roman days. Entertain people while we rule over all. And entertainment is the best way of anything to keep people's attention span. You know, and the attention span now with the average human being here in America is getting lower and lower. So, like I said, these are the things you got to keep in mind when in your podcast journey from one brother to another.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. but I appreciate the knowledge, brother.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank you, Zoser, for your time and energy and for your wonderful book. And I tell people, please get the book. You know, this book is like any other manuscript or work of art that you can learn something. And like I said, everybody falls under consciousness differently in their development. God knows, you know, I came across consciousness like, you know, around the same time maybe as those are, and I learned the hard way. You get me? So not everybody's gonna be the same. And you know, like I said, you get it from his website. And like always, and I don't know if you email me. Those did I get your email? I think you email maybe. If you can, you know, like I said, email me other links. I will put this in the description on my channel. You know, so people could not only get the book but the website. Cool? I think it's also on Amazon as well. Your book's on Amazon.
Yeah, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. I got everything on there. As far as the book goes, yeah, you can on the website. It's got the podcast. It's got my music I've done. It's got, you know, pictures of me traveling around the world. It's got my book links to Amazon. You know, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You can pretty much figure out everything. You know, everything that I got going on there.
Yeah, you kept it simple, which is a good thing. So it keeps people to really direct the ease for the website. So they should have no problem getting your work and material, you know, and follow you where you're doing your actions and upcoming events. So I appreciate it for being a guest. Hey, we might do it in the future for another broadcast. Who knows? We'll see.
Hey, well, you know where to get me.
Oh yeah. But I like the conversations. This is good. This is real good. Thank you again, Zoser. Until next time, brother. Probably keep in touch. Oh, and if you have Facebook
I appreciate
Twitter,
you, brother.
If you have that, if you can't email me that, I'll follow you on Facebook, especially. You know, kind of more active on there than other outlets. So, anything I know.
You said email. I'm sorry. You said email you what now?
If you have Facebook, you know, just let me know what you are on Facebook. If you have one,
okay.
I'll follow you easier. You know, I use social media a little differently to follow certain people that I have on. Yeah, so it's easier to have many outlets. So, but you'll give me all the information. But thanks again for coming on the show. You know, be safe. You know what I'm saying, and for more greater success. I see in the future.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much for letting me come on your platform. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Until next time, thank you, brother.
All right. Peace and love, brother.
And I'd like to thank everybody for listening to tonight's stream. I will leave the links to his website where you can get all the books, music, all the goodies, the good stuff. You get me? And support Zoser and even his up-and-coming books. I advise to buy his books as well. It has a wealth of knowledge, information, and you're not going to miss out. Trust me, I won't. Thank you all for listening to tonight's stream. Be on the lookout for the next podcast, you know, or stream of any outlets. You also go follow Chaos Rain on Anchor, Spotify, and all those other great outlets as well. So take care. Until next time, good night.
Well, there it goes again. Another great broadcast and another good interview with my special guest, Zoser. Thank you again for listening again. And like always, comment, subscribe, and like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChaosRain7. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, may Chaos reign.